there, BookTube. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just popping in to do a tag. It's Thursday, so this is Tag Thursday. I know most people do tags on Tuesdays, but hey, I've never been one to follow those rules. Or is it just that I'm always late? Either way, today we're doing a tag, Steve Donahue's original tag called 28 More Random Questions. There's a tag 25 random questions, and I guess when he had exhausted answering those questions, he decided to ask some more questions. So I remember a few weeks ago I wasn't watching BookTube videos much. I wasn't making videos of my own, and I wasn't watching other people's videos, so I missed when Steve posted that tag and the follow-up response videos that ensued. But I was reminded or alerted to this tag because yesterday he posted another follow-up 25 or 28 yet more random questions tag. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna do both of the tags that he's created and answer these more random questions tag. I'll also link my video down below where I did the 25 random questions, where I answered those. So knowing Steve, none of those questions are going to be repeated. I haven't watched his video yet, so we'll see how these questions are and where they take us. So the first question, how old is your oldest living relative? My oldest living relative at the beginning of this year died a few weeks ago. My father's eldest brother, he died in April. And so my oldest living relative right now is my father's eldest sister. She lives in Florida. She's a joy. I've loved her with a special love since I was a little girl. She used to send me letters that were addressed to me, just to me, not to my family. And I wish I saw her or talked to her more often. I should call her. I haven't seen her since December 2016 when she came to New York for a funeral. Her son-in-law had died. So yeah, she's my oldest living relative. As an adult, have you ever been in a fight? Is question number 2. I have never been in a fight as an adult or as a child. I'm not a violent person. I'm actually non-confrontational to the point where I will relent. I will back away from my position if I think it's gonna get violent. But I do love a really great debate. So I have started controversial discussions just for the debate, but violent fighting, no, never. Question 3, have you ever been slapped in public? Steve, where did you get these questions? No, again, I don't have the kinds of relationships that would elicit slaps from people, especially not in public. Question 4, what's the largest non-human animal you've seen in person? Non-human animal, I suppose an elephant. I've seen elephants at the zoo. I've never been on safari, so I've never been to Africa. Never encountered a bear in real life. I've seen a bear far enough away at camp or visiting family or friends up in New England. You see bears walking around, but I've never been close enough to them to really say that I have had a close and personal interaction, and that's a good thing. Question 5, have you ever had serious surgery? No. Knock on wood, cross my fingers. No, I've never had any surgery. Question 6, if you could only compare the novels of Cormac McCarthy to one kind of garbage, what kind would it be? Cormac McCarthy. I Only Own the Road. This was his Pulitzer Prize winning book, and I still haven't read it. I do know that the writing is going to be an interesting... I don't know anything about this book other than that it is a little bit experimental in its form. There isn't a lot of punctuation, and that's all I know about this book. And it's supposed to be some attempt at the great American story where a person is making that hero quest, traveling across country or something like that, to the road. So no, Steve, I don't know what kind of garbage I would compare Cormac McCarthy's novels to. Yeah. Question number 7, who would be your dream casting for Superman? I have no idea, considering that I am not a huge action comic lover, but I'd probably include some booktubers as the leads. Maybe I'd cast myself as Lois Lane. These glasses, I'm sure I'd make a very convincing, bookish, journalistic type. Come on. And I don't know, another writer as my Superman. Cormac McCarthy still alive? Sorry, Steve. Question number 8. What's the greatest amount of physical pain you've ever been in? Probably after some dental work, a root canal, or when I got my wisdom teeth removed and the pain meds wore off. Yeah, that's probably it. Question number 9. Do you believe in a God or gods? And in his list of questions, God is lowercase. So a lowercase God or lowercase gods. I believe in the uppercase God. I know Steve has a slightly different religious philosophy, but I believe in the supreme being, the uppercase God, the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So we won't get into a religious discussion on here, but yeah, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. Question number 10. Have you ever been good and properly drunk? My mother watches this channel. Steve, what kind of questions are you asking me? Yes, I have had some alcohol and it has taken its toll, but I don't drink anymore. Question number 11. To the best of your knowledge, what's the closest you've ever come to death? I was in a plane that crash landed once. No one was injured, but every time I hear about a plane crash or watch a movie where they fictionalize a crash landing, I'm reminded of that moment and the uncertainty of what our specific experience was going to be like. We were in the plane, the engines were failing, the stewardesses had told us to get in the brace position. They had disappeared, the lights were gone, the gas masks, the oxygen masks had been lowered. And yeah, everyone was expecting the worst. And it wasn't the worst, so I think that's the closest I've come to death, because it was a situation that I was not in control of, and there wasn't anything that I could do to save myself. So I was very calm. I remember being very calm because a lot of people around me were freaking out, and I remember that I prayed and I asked God to forgive me of anything that I had left unconfessed, and nothing bad happened. So I've been in car accidents, I've been on a boat that capsized, but I knew that I couldn't swim then, but I thought that I could take myself to safety if I needed to. But being in that plane and not having any kind of control over my situation, I think is the closest I've come to death. Knock on wood, cross my fingers. Thank you, Jesus. Question number 12. Which Star Trek character would the person who knows you best compare you to? Person who knows me best compare me. Does the person who know me best even watch Star Trek? I don't know, but I'm gonna say that it'd probably compare me to Geordi, because I haven't watched Star Trek in a long time, but I remember him being very smart, and people who know me usually use smart to describe me, whether it's a compliment or an insult. Like, they'll call me a smart aleck, or they'll say I'm a smarty pants or something like that. But yeah. Question number 13. Have you ever had your life radically changed by a book? Yeah, the Bible. Okay, I know, Steve, yes, aside from the Bible, but the book that has changed my life is the book that I wrote. It's complicated, short stories about long relationships. Is the book that I wrote. It's a collection of short stories. It changed my life radically because it turned me from a person who scribbles sentences and poems in the back of a notebook or spends time in front of a computer tapping away for hours on end but does nothing with the writing. It turned me from that person to a person who has a book published and has sold copies of said book to people that I didn't have a relationship with previously. So this book changed my status from a writer to a published author. And so this is a book that changed my life. I can't consider any other book that has changed my life in a more significant way. Question number 14. Is there a universally beloved classic that you don't like? I haven't read a lot of classics and loved them. I've read them and understood why the books were classics, but maybe I'm not a real huge classic lover. In 2016, I read Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, and my main issue with the book was just that it was simply too long. It was around the time that I was just publishing this book and thinking about how to cut things as an author. I mean, there are things that you write for your own self, but I think that part of the self-editing and the process of your work being edited is that some things need to be removed for brevity, and not just for brevity, but also for clarity. If you spend so much time going into backstories and details, you run the risk of losing your reader's interest. It was also a little bit of an issue that I had with this book, The Luminaries. I appreciated the backstory of all the characters, but I didn't feel like all of the backstory was indeed necessary. I think there was at least 100 pages of this book that could have been cut. Make it from 830 to 730 or even 650 pages. But I felt like that when I was reading Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. And so I know that I have others of his works to read, other long works. And yet I'm not entirely anticipating reading them in that way because they're just so long. So yeah, universally beloved classic. It's not that I don't like the book, it's just that I felt like it could have been edited down to a more readable form. Question number 50, what is your dream profession? Author, author, author. Also travel journalist and chef. But yeah, an author. I would just like to write. Question number 16, is there an entire genre of reading you're bugged you haven't fully explored? Most of the reading that I do is mood reading. I read because I want to read something, or I challenge myself to read something because I'm interested in it. If I haven't read a genre of books, it's because I'm not totally interested in that genre. Like, I read nonfiction, I read self-help, I read business books when I feel like it. I don't read it because I have to. I don't read a lot of science fiction, even though I read science books. I'm not particularly interested in science fiction as a genre. I will read a book that I'm interested in that has science fiction in it. I also don't read a lot of horror books because I'm just not particularly inclined to enjoy a story that is scary in that way. I read books that scare me and enjoy them. I read thrillers and enjoy them. But yeah, so I don't necessarily think about books in genres like that and avoid them or run away from them or have been kept away from them because of that. So can't answer that question, I suppose, in the way it was asked. Question number 17, when you people watch, what's the main thing you notice? That's funny. I do a lot of people watching when I'm sitting at Starbucks, and I notice how people engage with the people around them. Sometimes you'll see people who seem like they're a little destitute, and yet they come into the Starbucks and they buy expensive drinks. And then I like to watch how other people react to them. People who might not have considered them to be affluent enough to be in Starbucks would now engage them just because they have that magical Starbucks cup in their hand. So I like to see how people engage with other people. Yeah, that's the main thing that I notice. Question number 18, barring the unforeseeable, what's the most likely way you'll die? I'm imagining that a bookshelf is gonna topple over on me at some point. Death by books! Question number 19, have you visited any of the world, ancient or modern? That's really interesting because he says any of the world, as though the places where we live are not the world. But no to this because I haven't traveled outside of this part of the world, Steve. But here's a list that he gives: the ancient world, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the lighthouse at Alexandria, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, no, I haven't been to any of those. In the modern world, he calls the Great Wall of China, Petra, Christ the Redeemer, Chichen Itza, the Colosseum, the Taj Mahal, and the Great Pyramid of Giza. No to all of those as well. That's terrible. I really need to start doing some traveling. Question number 20. What are your main superpowers? I could read a lot of books and talk about them for days on end. What? That's not a superpower? Please. Question number 21. Have you met any famous people? Yeah, I've been to book signings. Most of the famous people that I know are authors. So, yeah. Question number 22. Have you ever slept out of doors? I've been camping a lot. Yes. I have slept in tents and in cabins. Well, I guess cabins don't count, but I've slept in tents many times. I have never slept under the stars, as in no covering at all. But if camping counts, then yes. Question number 23, would you make a good parent? Absolutely. I make incredible chocolate chip cookies from scratch. Or if you're already a parent, how much do your children hate you? Thanks, Steve. Steve is not a parent, by the way. I don't have biological children, but I have a lot of children that I'm responsible for at various points in the week, and they don't hate me. They think I'm cool, okay? That's how I go to sleep at night. Question number 24, New Kids on the Block or the Backstreet Boys? Interesting question, because when I was let's not talk about that. New Kids on the Block were, I think, a bigger group, but Backstreet Boys, I mean, their songs, I want it that way, tell me why. Sorry. Question number 25. Have you ever been on stage in front of an audience? Yes. I do a lot of public speaking at my church. I go to a pretty big church, and I am on the programming a lot. Other than that, I have spoken at events at schools. We'll talk about that part of my life another time. Question number 26. At the moment, what's your favorite non-booktube YouTube channel? I've been watching Sophia's videos a lot. She doesn't post as often, but I like how she gets suggestions from people about things that she should test, and she tests them. And she lets you know what her experiences are. She makes videos with her boyfriend Tyler, and he also has a channel where they do a lot of traveling and test out products. And I think it's so fun. I think it's cool that they are a couple and that they share this YouTube world. I like that. Question number 27, have you ever passed out while sober? No. I've never had a fainting spell or anything like that. And question number 28, how strong are you physically, intellectually, and emotionally? Physically, I am pretty weak. I can only carry maybe about 50 books at a time. So I really need to bulk up, because I want to be able to hold at the end of the year, when I have read my 120 books that I'm planning to read in 2018, I want to be able to hold all of them up. So I need to bulk up by then. Intellectually, I think I could be stronger. And emotionally, I don't know. I think I'm emotionally weak, because I can't understand why Steve Donahue didn't tag me in this video. I think I'll just sit down now and have a really good cry. Thanks for watching this video. Leave me a comment down below if you wanted to hear more about any of my answers to any of these questions. I know I was pretty brief with a lot of them, because I didn't want to edit too much of this video. I didn't want to have to edit it down when I was done. And 28 questions with multiple parts does have the potential to produce a long video. So thanks for watching. Let's talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye. Death by books. Death by books. Death by books.